Hey, welcome to Dogs Are Smarter Than People, the bonus interview with debut author Tony Quintana. Tony is amazing, and his first book, I had the pleasure of reading an earlier version of it, and it is like steampunk with fantasy elements, with like this big epic story that's also got this amazing character development in the main character Dashiel. So it's also really intimate. And somehow Tony, and I'm very, very jealous of him, managed to combine that big epic world with a really intimate story about one guy's development. Tony, even though I'm super jealous and envious of you, I am so glad you're here and that I get to pick your brain today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor for me. It's
Oh,
amazing to be talking to you today.
oh, you are so silly. So silly. And I think it's an honor to talk to you because you are in my head just like this bright shining light in the future of publishing. So Tony, if you don't mind me saying, you're kind of young, right? Like you're not a super old human being right now, only in spirit. What?
No, I'm just 25.
And you started like 25 and you started writing this novel in college, right?
I was
Or
21 back then.
yeah.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago. It was
Yeah.
quite alright.
What like inspired you to start writing this story? Like was there a inciting incident in your own life that made you think,
I wouldn't say like inciting accident. I would just say that this story came to me like bits and pieces of it came to me like 10 years ago. And
wow.
yeah, no, I've always been a creative kind of child. I've always loved to draw and to paint and to like even like acting. I've always done acting, and those are the things I really like. And those things really gave me like bits and pieces of ideas for this story, and it just came to be, and it grew until the day I decided to write it. And no, it's. I think that's what happened. Like, there's no. I would say also like my a little bit of my background.
Yeah.
I was born in Cancun, Mexico. I was born there, and like with like the beach and the ocean and everything, and you see like the jungles and like all these like different environments combined together, and it's so beautiful.
Oh
And I would
yeah.
say like it just that's one of like the values of my book is environmental preservation.
Yeah.
So I think like I'm just like it's not like I had like this one thing that happened and it just came to be. No, it's just like my background and what are the things I like to do. Those inspire me to create my book.
Yeah. So like I think that what you just said like kind of made me have a baby epiphany in my brain because your book has so many connections within it from character to character, from landscape to landscape, and thematically. And I can kind of see how, as an artist who sees the world in scenes as an actor, and sees the world in images as a visual artist, how all of that came in and informed your story. But also, are you in the States still right now? So
Oh,
you
I
had
live in the United States. Yeah.
yeah. So you were born in Cancun and then you're in the United States, and both of those had to play a big influence in how you recreated and built this world piece by piece and image by image that Dashiel inhabits in this big epic adventure, and like it's amazing to me how there's so many visual images and image systems that go on in there. Do you think that was intuitive, or was it something that you had to consciously build in?
Ooh, it's
I'm
a good
sorry.
question. No, no, it's fine. It's a good question. Something I can say is whenever I'm like with my friends or just doing something by myself, I have these like quick moments where I just like stare blankly at nothing and just start thinking about like brainstorming, and it happens quite often. Also happens when I'm listening to music. Music is amazing. It helps you a lot. It can be like anything. It can be rock. It can be heavy metal. It can be classical, pop, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like this like his melodies or like words, and those help me, and they kind of like spark some things in my head, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's what happens. That's yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's so hard to explain the process sometimes, like, but I think you did a great job. And when I just think about like connections and meldings and how um you built off of this book, which hopefully is going to be the first book of a series, how like even your media campaigns, like on your Instagram, or the images that you created or that other people created for you too, like how um I've never seen somebody create something so well, so quickly in the whole world around their own book. Like you can really see how you have so many skills. Is that part fun for you? Like the
I love drawing. I love
Yeah.
drawing, and when I create something and I write it down, I I like to have like a drawing to just, like look at when I'm writing about something, like to have something like to visualize it. I'm a very visual guy,
Yeah.
and even with the clothes, like I have pictures of my characters with different like clothing options, and I do this because it really helps. And yeah, no, that it's those drawings, those things that I create. They're pretty much how I picture my characters, how I picture the creatures that I created, how I picture the places that I've come up with. And yeah, no, it's really fun. To answer your question, it's really fun to do those. It's time consuming, not gonna lie, but
Yeah. But in the
really
end,
fun.
your product is so, your book, your story, like it's so detailed and so believable. Like you're drawn into that world. I think because you have that other aspect that you can draw upon. I'm using the word draw far too much. I'm so sorry. But it's just everything is informing each other. Um, Thematically, it's interesting too. I'm a terrible, terrible artist, but I paint. And I often paint when I get stuck in a story. So a lot of my paintings, even though they're not these, my art's so different from yours, but they're not these detailed drawing. There's like they're more, thematic feeling paintings, and they often help me through that writing process. I wonder if that ever happens for you too, like when you're like, oh, I'm gonna draw him and this is gonna be his costume or outfit for this day, like if it helps bring you in a little more during that drafting or even revising.
No, but first of all, it doesn't have to be like a perfect drawing. I'm not a professional artist at all.
No.
I like drawing because I have some experience, and all my drawings are cartoons. Like I cannot do like hyper realistic stuff. No, that goes beyond my current abilities, my current skills. Perhaps in the future. So don't worry.
Yeah.
It can be a stick figure. It can be whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter as long as you know what that thing represents and how it's going to help you.
You
Yeah.
said you're not a perfectionist with your art, but I know that you're a perfectionist in your story. And I would love it if you could share with everyone about how what language you started this big beautiful book in, and the transition that happened, and how you battled your perfectionism, because so many authors fight that too. If
No,
you have any
yes.
helpful hints.
So I'm going to tell you all that my book started in Spanish. So I'm a native Spanish speaker. And when I decided to write it, I started doing it in Spanish because it was going to be easier, right? And
Yeah.
then one day I decided, oh, you know what? I live in the United States. I know English, Spanish is my native language, but still, like I think I was just gonna try doing it in English because that's a bigger of a challenge. And that's when I had to like learn how to write in English because you have like all these elements, different elements that you have to memorize and you have to learn because English and Spanish, their sentences they can have like completely different meanings.
Oh, so different.
And so no, it was fun. I'm so glad I did it because I acquired a new skill, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so about the perfectionist part of it of your question is, yeah, I'm a total perfectionist. It hurts my heart. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Don't take me wrong. Like, there are some good things, because the being a perfectionist helps me um, improve my writing, improve my drawings, improve everything I create. But also, sometimes it won't let you let go of things. It won't let you tell yourself, what I've done is good enough.
Yeah.
It's good enough, and people are gonna like it. And you got like this like little devil here in your shoulder telling you like, no, you gotta like keep improving on it, keep improving on it. And you just gotta learn to let go.
Yeah.
Just gotta like trust yourself. And it's something I've gotten better at. But it's a matter of just trusting yourself and saying,
It's
good enough, because you poured your heart and soul into this story, into these characters, into all these creatures and places and everything.
and then you're like, oh, and it's so hard because it's like you control your world while you still have your book. But then once you let your book go, you're opening it up to interpretation, and writing is a communication. And so many of us writers forget that as we're writing it. And there's a level of vulnerability that happens when you let that book
Yes. It's very funny.
go.
I kind of like interpretation from my readers, because there was once this woman that read my book, and she really liked it, and she was telling me about her favorite characters. One of my characters, Sylvain, is Dashiel's companion in the story, right?
Yeah.
And becomes his best friend. And she was telling me like, before, let me tell you how I describe Sylvain, or how I picture him in my head, right? So for me, he was kind of like an earthy guy with like the color scheme of the earth, like the greens and the browns, a
Yeah.
little bit of gray, and like the blacks and everything. But this woman, when she was just like describing me how to picture him, she was like, "Oh, I picture him like wearing like with the eyeliner and black, like gothic style clothes." And I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting idea, of course." Like, I never really picture him that way. I already explained how I describe him in my head. But yeah, interpretation is really good. And you're right. My story out there can be it's nerve wracking.
Yeah. And
It's
it's,
really problems.
yeah, it's so scary. And it's like collaboration. You can write your words down, you can say a tree, but I might be thinking pine and you might be thinking palm. And like the reader thinks some totally different tree. And so it becomes like a collaboration in the reader's brain of their thoughts and your words. And that's like so wild and magical and cool. And I want to make sure, I know this is kind of hard, but can you tell us what your book is about, just so people, before we go, have a good understanding of how cool this book
Yeah.
is? I know it's super hard for most of us, but maybe you've got it packed down because you're
let's
amazing.
let's try. So,
Okay.
16 years have passed since the empire of Zaphyrelia was taken over by a new emperor. So oppression, injustice, and many other bad things were
Yeah.
spread across the empire, except for one place, a town that was built in the center of this beautiful forest called Azahar. So the town has the name of the town is also Azahar, and in Azahar there's this boy, this young man called Dashiel Ermitage. Dashiel, he is a librarian's apprentice, and he longs to explore the life beyond the barrier. The barrier is a magical gift from a deity that lives inside Azahar, the forest. And pretty much no one can go in or out. It's no one can. But
Yeah.
he has lived kind of like a shelter life. He dealt with this childhood disease that left him bedridden for most of his childhood, and he has like this longing to like just leave Azahar and just learn about what's beyond the barrier, right? And one day he gets the opportunity when two of the Empire metal soldiers, they're called Ogre Brigadiers, and they're like big robotic beings that have flaming swords, and two of them manage to infiltrate the forest. When they do this,
Terrifying. Yeah.
yeah, They start
Yeah.
casting havoc all around the forest, and Dashiel, with the help of Sylvain, an odd fellow that arrived at the forest, they manage to defeat the soldiers, the Ochre Brigadiers. After they do that, Dashiell gets the opportunity to join the Kobold Phantasm Order. It's an order that aims to not rebel or have like a long-term change. They just aim to provide relief to the rest of the empire, and that's what they do. And that's how Dashiell gets his opportunity to go outside the barrier, and he makes new friends, and he goes on this like amazing journey, this epic journey with it's I don't want to say more than that, but
Yeah, you don't want to
it's
spoil it.
you're right. It's kind of hard to explain your story when
It's so hard, but you did
you
a fantastic job. And I think you touched on one of the things that I, with my own bias, love about your story is that I think a long, long time ago, you told me that part of what you wanted your story to have inside of it was that the belief that kindness is important, and that if you believe in yourself and if you act with that strong sense of service and kindness, good things can happen and you can make something of your journey. And I think that's so important and so lovely, and that you do it so deftly, without being didactic, and yeah. Like you just do it so
like
well. Yeah.
whoever sees this, please don't think that I'll be like preaching. Like
No,
it's
no.
like no, you gotta be kind and you gotta like become a vegan. I don't know. I'm not just gonna say stuff like that. No.
Do not touch that plastic water bottle. No, it's not like that. It's just it's embedded beautifully in the characters and in their actions and in their choices and in the outcomes of their good choices and their bad choices. And it's so well done. And I'm not the only person who thinks that. I mean, Kirkus is kind of cranky typically. They're like, they said your novel sublimely fused elements of fantasy and real world elements of history. And that's like, and they also said you had tightly written scenes. And that you pack your pages with rich details. Forward Clarion Reviews said that you create a realm where anything seems possible. And Blue Ink Review said you had a compelling read. And so like those are just really lovely reviews about and takes on a really, really great novel written by a great person. And the personalities of authors often seep through on their pages and even in their Instagram stories, Tony. And I think that your kindness and your wonderful humanity really does all the time. Like even in the you have to figure out you have to go visit Tony's page, his Instagram page and his Amazon page and all his pages, which we'll have links to in the podcast notes and in the blog. But even the quotes that you pick out, like on your Instagram, they show so much about you. Like, remember to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. Or that is part, you have an F. Scott Fitzgerald quote that is part of the beauty of all literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, and that you're not lonely and isolated from anyone, and you belong. Do you think that like when you consciously, do you know that you do that inside of your story, or is it just you're like, oh, Carrie, you're embarrassing me, stop? Or do you think it's like an intentional thing sometimes, or is it just how you see the world somehow flutters into those words and sentences and paragraphs and scenes?
No, it's that's why I picked that quote for that post, is because I agree with F. Scott Fitzgerald. Like, it's amazing. Like you, and I think it's because when you read, you have the ability to create this like your own interpretation of this world. And if you can relate to the story and the characters, like just build this like whole new world where you are like the center of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard. It's hard to explain, but that's the beauty of it. And that it's you belong because you. I know it's the author created the world. There's no doubt about it. The author created this world and created the characters, created like everything about it. But you create like a whole new like a parallel universe, and
Yeah.
it's your own thing, and that's why it's so special, because it came from you. It you like what I said about interpretation. You interpreted the characters in a way that relates to you. That they are like your family, your friends, and
Yeah.
it's pure. Yeah, I love it.
Ah! And you get attached to them too, like they're your family and your friends, right? So, are you going to write some follow-up books to this?
I'm glad to say that I'm currently working on Joyce Master Crystal Ascension. That's going to be the sequel to Joyce Master
Yay!
Phantasm Creed.
That's exciting. Do you know when
Yeah.
it might come out? No pressure, perfectionist one. But do you have any
Well,
ideas?
I promise not to take 4 years to do it. Because I was in college. My first book took a little bit longer to publish because I was in college and my life was kind of hectic. But I yeah I would like it to be published by the end of this year, but only time will tell. Also, another thing that some authors might like agree with me is procrastination is horrible.
Oh no, no You know what? You have to think of it as like time in which your brain makes those beautiful connections and builds the world and takes in all the influences of life that you can
Yeah.
then reinterpret on the page. That's how I do it. That's what I say. I'm like, oh yeah, that works.
That's a really good definition of
Yeah.
procrastination. I'm going to adopt it if you don't mind.
Feel free to use it as an excuse because I do it all the time. Before we go, Tony, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with your writing as the years go by. And I feel really lucky to get to know you in the beginning of that journey. Whew, yay me. But before we go, are there any links that you want to, or shout outs or anything else that you might want to share?
Yeah, well, you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Those are like my main social media platforms. Tony M. Quintana. You can find me in those two places. I also like the same for TikTok. It's brand new thing. I'm sorry if it's not big right now, but I'm not a big social media guy. I'm just trying to do my best to survive. But yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, Tony M. Quintana.
Yay. Tony is amazing as a writer and as a human. And Tony, the best of luck to you. Thank you so much for hanging out here with me today.
Thank you very much, Harry. It's been an honor being here, and
Uh,
it's been so much fun. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you.